If you told me moving to Oakwood Trails would result in courtroom-level petty war, I would have asked if you were high on mulch fumes. Oakwood Trails seemed perfect on paper. Tree-lined streets, cookie-cutter houses with nice brick accents, and an HOA that promised harmonious community standards. That's HOA speak for no one uses inflatable flamingos shaped like velociraptors after 9 p.m. I was thrilled to finally have a place of my own. My house had a little front yard I manicured with borderline obsession because retail therapy and mulch are cheaper than actual therapy. But then she showed up. Her name was Karen Whitby. Official title: President of the Oakwood Trails Homeowners Association. Unofficial title: Supreme Overlord of Law Enforcement. Karen was an aura. She wore white polo shirts, khaki pants, and a smug expression that suggested she once scolded a parking meter for being 2 minutes past expired. I didn't hate her at first. I mean, someone has to enforce community rules, right? Then the fine appeared. Not a letter. Not a polite knock. A $2,000 violation notice slipped under my door like a cryptic IRS tax form. The violation: unauthorized outdoor decor. The culprit: a tiny bird feeder shaped like a flamingo. A flamingo. I swear to God. I'd bought it because hummingbirds seem to consider my yard a 5-star salad bar, and flamingos are just fun. I immediately emailed the HOA. Me. Hi, is a flamingo bird feeder really prohibited? HOA reply: all outdoor decorations must be approved. This was not. They attached a clause buried deep in the bylaws written in font size for that seemed designed to induce hallucinations. I replied, this is literally a bird feeder. I am feeding birds. They replied, this still violates Section 12. 4B2. And just like that, $2,000 fine. Which, as a man who once paid $1,500 for a gaming PC, felt like being punched in the emotional wallet. At first, I thought about just paying it. Sort it out later. Avoid HOA drama. Be a good neighbor. But then I noticed something. Karen was laughing. The email signature was exactly the same smiley clip art smug grin she always used in meetings, like she enjoyed dishing out fines the way other people enjoyed donuts. That was the exact moment I decided I wasn't going to pay it. I was going to engineer her worst nightmare. At first, I wasn't sure what that meant. I'm not a mad scientist. I'm not that kind of person. But when you get fined $2,000 for a flamingo that was literally just helping birds, something inside you starts bubbling. I started with research. Late nights. Coffee. Hobby law. YouTube videos about creative compliance and weaponized semantics. I became dangerous with Google. And I found something beautiful. A loophole. Not just any loophole, a loophole so absurd it was deliciously perfect for the situation. The bylaws limited decorations and ornamental displays. But they said nothing about functional installations. Functional. Useful. Totally free of aesthetic regulation. Meaning, if something served a practical purpose, even if it looked unusual, the HOA couldn't legally fine it. I stared at my monitor. A mischievous grin spread across my face. Strategy begins. The petty blueprint phase 1. Collect evidence of the flamingo being useful. I photographed birds using it. Cardinals, robins, finches. Even a confused squirrel once tried to drink nectar from it. I made a folder titled Flamingo, Functional Bird Service. Phase 2. Submit a functionality appeal. I wrote an appeal redefining the flamingo bird feeder as a regulated wildlife nourishment station with environmental benefits. I used terms like avian utility, ecosystem enrichment, and ornithological service fixture. I attached photos, charts, yes, charts, and even a fake letter from a made-up bird enthusiast group called Friends of Feathered Neighbors. The response: crickets. Dreaded, vindictive silence. That's when phase 3 began. I built something massive. Not just any practical installation, something so useful the HOA had no choice but to acknowledge it. I won't lie. It involved a lot of hardware store trips, power tools I barely knew how to use, and at least one minor electrical incident involving a headlamp and a suspiciously well-placed extension cord. But at the end of it, I had created something that was not just functional, it was next-level essential. It stood tall in my front yard, powered by solar panels, with moving parts, blinking lights, and an obvious purpose. But what it actually did? Well, that's where things get fun. Karen's first reaction, she saw it before most of the neighborhood did. It was 7:02 a.m. on a Tuesday. She was doing her daily HOA walk, clipboard in hand, attitude dial turned to Inquisition, when she stopped dead in her tracks. What she saw looked like something between a futuristic weather station and a carnival ride designed by someone who watched too many sci-fi movies. This thing had solar panels that tracked sunlight, a rotating anemometer, a digital display, a series of tubes and funnels feeding something, and atop it, a birdhouse shaped like a phoenix holding a wrench. Karen blinked. Then she frowned. Very HOA-esque. She walked up my driveway. I was watering my lawn, pretending nothing was happening, which psychological experts told me made me look innocent and non-threatening. "Good morning," I said cheerfully. Karen didn't reply. She stared. Then she pointed. "What is that?" she demanded. I smiled. That, Karen, is the Oakwood Functional Environmental Resource System, or OFERS. It measures microclimate data, supports seasonal pollination, and recycles rainwater into household usable reserve. Her eyes narrowed. "It looks like a contraption." "It is a contraption," I said proudly, "but a completely functional one, not decorative." She tapped her clipboard. "Is it in violation?" Well, I paused. I'd argue it's not, because it's useful. She glared at me like I had personally banned her favorite park bench. She took out her phone and started taking pictures. Not to issue a violation, but to send to the rest of the board.
You smiled ahead.
"Let me know what they say," I said. I ignored them. Not out of disrespect, but because I knew something they didn't. My solar-powered marvel was legally compliant. It served a genuine function, and the bylaws did not restrict functional installations. They only restricted decorative ones, and what I'd built was clearly useful. I had documented it all, with photos, measurements, and even a silly diagram discussing environmental benefit metrics. Honestly, half of the board probably thought I actually cared about pollinators, when really I just wanted a win. The HOA board meeting was scheduled for the following Thursday at 7 p.m. in the community clubhouse, a place that smelled faintly of stale coffee, old carpet, and tension. I walked in 30 minutes early. Typical. But no one was there yet, except Karen Whitby. She was plucking at her tablet with an expression that looked like a toddler trying to solve calculus. I took a seat a few chairs away, holding my notes, neatly organized, like I was attending a school parent-teacher meeting for my lawn. Eventually, the board filed in. About 6 people, ranging from bored to irritated. Someone brought donuts, apparently to soften the blow of 8 p.m. fines. Karen stood up immediately. "Before we begin," she said, eyes on me, "I will remind everyone why we are here." She pointed at an absurdly blown-up photo of my front yard machine, like it was exhibited in a courtroom. "This installation," she announced dramatically, "violates the Oakwood Trails community guidelines. It is unsightly, disruptive, and non-compliant." I raised my hand. "Karen," I said, the room falling a bit awkwardly silent, "could you point me to the specific clause that says functional installations are restricted?" She blinked and flailed for the bylaws on her tablet, a tablet she had clearly never learned to use well. "The beautiful thing," I continued, trying not to enjoy this too much, "is that in the HOA code, only decorative items require approval."
I have this right
here. I showed them the highlighted clause I'd pulled, big, bold, and legally clear. There was a murmur, a shuffle. Someone whispered, "Ouch." Karen leaned forward. "Well," she said coldly, "it's still out of place and offensive." I blinked. "Offensive." "To a machine that measures rainfall and feeds birds." I wanted to ask, is it offensive to butterflies too? But I kept it classy. Another board member, Mrs. Tran, a retired schoolteacher who actually had a sense of fairness, spoke up. "Let's be clear," she said, "we sanction items that are illegal. Does this machine break a law? Not by what I'm reading. Karen shuffled her notes, sputtering something about community vibe standards, which, if you ask me, sounds like I want more control than my job description allows. Eventually, the meeting dissolved into debate after debate, like adults arguing about which shade of brown mulch best embodied civic harmony. The board voted